Working on my 2009 Chevy Cobalt, and today I'm going to be replacing the water pump and the thermostat. The car currently has 355,069 miles on it, and I am the original owner, so I know this water pump that's in the car now is original to the engine. So the water pump's lasted quite a long time. 355,000 miles is pretty darn good. But it's finally time, and you do need a specialized tool. This holds the timing chain gear in place, and then this is the AC Delco water pump. Comes with new gaskets and the water pump. You do have to put your new housing on the back side where your crossover pipe goes, and that's that piece right there. This is going to be a little difficult to film because it's on the back side of the engine where your exhaust manifold is. So you have to remove the air intake, a whole bunch of stuff, your catalytic converter, your downpipe, and just to make some room. I'm going to put it up on ramps so I can get from underneath the car and do a lot of that. Here is your water pump, is right here. This is your crossover pipe that goes to the thermostat housing, and that is the thermostat. And you disconnect the thermostat housing by removing these 3 bolts, and then you're just going to pull it away and off to the side, and that way you don't have to disconnect your heater hoses, and that just pulls out the back side. One of the first things you're going to want to do is remove this water pump cover. This covers up the sprocket, which would be right here. And when you take this off, you're going to use the water pump tool to go in here, and you're going to use a couple of the existing bolts to hold this in place, and then these are going to go into, I think I have this on backwards actually, but this is going to go into the existing bolts and hold it in place. At the end of the video, I'm going to show you completely how to do this on the engine that's outside the car. I am going to show you me doing it on the actual car, but it's going to be very difficult to record this, so stay tuned to the end of the video when I go over how to do this on an engine that's out of the car. It's just going to be easier to show all the little detail. All right, let me pull this up on the ramps. And as you can see, the water pump is clearly leaking. Not bad for 355,000 miles though. So let me get started disconnecting everything, and then we'll go from there. All right, I'm going to start by disconnecting the air intake. This is a nice K&N air intake. I'll use a glove to cover the throttle body, make sure no debris gets in there. Now that opened up a lot more room to get to the timing chain sprocket cover down there, which would be this right here on this parts engine. Next, I'm going to drain the water pump, and there's a little drain plug right here. That takes a 13 millimeter. Now I'm going to remove the coolant temperature sensor and the 3 bolts for the thermostat housing. There it is, coolant temperature sensor. And you remove the coolant temperature sensor so you can get to this back 10 millimeter bolt. There's one 10 millimeter. And I'm going to show all this above the car in an engine I have outside the car, what I'm doing, because I know it's impossible to see. And this bottom one, closest to crossover pipe, is a long bolt, and the top one is a shorter bolt. And then this other top one is a short one. So there's 2 short ones on the top and 1 long one on the bottom. Now to pull out the thermostat housing and the crossover, dang, that was in there tight. So the side with the little notch goes on the thermostat housing. Wow. Wow, that was fun. All right, there is the water pump. Now I can get to the top side. All right, here's what it looks like on the engine that's out of the car. This is the crossover pipe. Here are the 3 10 millimeter bolts. The 2 top ones are the short ones. The bottom one's a long one. You do have to remove the coolant temperature sensor in order to get to that 1 10 millimeter. And then this just pulls right out. Next thing I'm going to do is remove the access plate for the sprocket that's connected to your water pump that turns the water pump from the timing chain. Then I'm going to install the tool that holds that sprocket so you can remove the water pump. It's going to be really difficult to show, so first I'm going to show it on this engine out of the car. It has 4 10 millimeter bolts. Wow, that was extremely loose. Now you can see it has threaded holes that you can hook the tool up to. Okay, you're going to want to have the one bolt facing directly down, and then you're going to place the tool like this. So you're going to use this hole and this hole to hold it, and then you're going to be able to access that bolt, and then this one. I like removing this one first so you don't have to go through this hole. And you definitely do not want to drop this inside the engine. So you use a 21mm wrench to turn the engine over so you can get this line up directly down. It'll help you clock it on the new one, the replacement one. So right about there. So you want this facing directly down. All right, little pro tip of the day: you absolutely do not want to drop this bolt, any one of these bolts, into the timing chain cover. Otherwise, you're going to have to remove the entire timing chain cover to pull it out. So take a small magnet, put it in the finger of your glove, right there, and now you have a magnet on the finger of your glove. So when you reach your hand in here, and you feel like the threads are all the way out, you put the magnet on it and it will not drop out. It's also good if you drop something in the engine bay and you can't really reach a magnetic tool down there, you can put one in your finger to reach it out. That is the tip of the day. So you put in the water pump sprocket tool in the threaded holes of the sprocket. And you got to make sure the holes line up. So I got to turn the engine over a little bit. There we go. And then I would secure the two bolts that held on your cover. And you want to snug those up nice and tight, but don't over tighten them. And then you can unhook your two bolts there. All right, now to try to do this and film it at the same time. All right, now to get that first bolt out. All right, I just felt it come out, so I tucked the magnet in, and there you go. Oh my God. All right, remove this 13mm bolt on the back side. Now to remove the water pump. That is a 355,000 mile water pump. So I don't want to mess up the clocking because I got to make it exactly the same on the replacement. What is this? What the heck? All right, now I'm going to get out the new water pump. And of course, it comes with new gaskets and instructions. This is the part number for the 2009. I'm not sure if it's the same for all years, but that's a part number for this car. So on some of the aftermarket water pumps, they actually come with this back cover, which goes to your coolant crossover. But the AC Delco one did not. So you have to reuse this, and you basically just remove the 10mm bolts and the one stud with a nut, and then remount it to this one with a new gasket. Here is the new gasket. So you do need to torque this down to factory specification. You definitely don't want to get that new gasket pinched. And I did print out all the service information from Chilton's manual. And let's see. And it looks like he torqued that down according to Chilton to 89 inch-pounds. So he torqued down all these bolts and the one stud to 89 inch-pounds according to Chilton. But look up your own torque specifications. All right, now that everything's torqued down, I'm gonna re-clock. I'm gonna put the gasket on and then clock this to make it a little bit easier for the install. When you get it in there, you can put your finger in there and move the shaft by turning this part inside, but it's just so much easier if you get it close to start with. And then I usually put a little bit of oil on there just to make it easier to turn when you get it inside. Go right about there. Just a tad more oil. All right, now back underneath the car, put this back in. And you're going to want to come back and torque those down to factory specification. I'm going to show you at the end of this video how to retrieve the bolt that I dropped earlier. So now I'm just making sure the holes are lined up, and they're lined up perfectly. And that's one of the benefits about clocking the new water pump with the old water pump, so it lines up perfectly. Okay. Now to take off the water pump sprocket holding tool. remove the water pump holding tool. The water pump sprocket holding tool. Now I'm going to use a OEM video borescope with 2.4 inch color LCD screen. I'm going to try to look for that bolt to see if maybe I can get a magnet in there and see if I can avoid removing the entire timing chain cover. So there is a little camera. I found it right there. I'm not sure if you can see it, but there is the little bolt. So, right there. There we go. Retrieved the missing bolt. That was no fun. That was no fun. Alright, just a brief recap on how I got the bolt I dropped in here. So typically you'd have to remove your engine mount, your front engine mount, support the engine from below, remove your tensioner pulley, all this, and remove your timing chain cover. But I got a borescope camera and taped a magnet to the front. Now do this at your own risk. You could definitely drop this and to the engine too, but I figured I have to take apart the front of the engine anyway and take off the timing chain cover. So I basically bent this down to go inside the engine all the way down to the bottom, found the bolt, got the magnet to click on it, and just pulled it up. It's like that. There we go. Alright, for the coolant crossover pipe, the side with the little alignment tab goes on the thermostat housing. The long bolt goes in the bottom. Now to put in the coolant temperature sensor. And that takes a 19mm deep socket. Alright, now get the water pump a nice little snug. and you're going to want to torque this down to factory spec. Replace the... I always like keeping the bolts and nuts with the part. Makes it so much easier when it's time to put everything back together. It's all the air intake. Now to fill up the overflow tank with antifreeze. And I am using Prestone, and this is a Dexcool approved for GM vehicles. trip around the neighborhood. It's at 180. The thermostat should be opening up, but that is replacing the water pump on a 2009 Chevy Cobalt. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Probably going to show you on a different video how to do this outside the car. It's so much easier to show it on engine stand, but I thought I was gonna have to remove the timing chain cover when I dropped the bolt into the engine, but fortunately I was able to fish it out of there. Not a fun job.